Welcome back. We're here for lesson 2. So again, please highlight lesson 2. Looks like a very big dot point, and that's probably because I've accidentally highlighted the whole table of contents, but it really don't like me. Anyway, so it's this one here, lesson 2. We're going to look at the 4 distinguishing characteristics of popular culture. So make sure you highlight that and date that, and here we go. So the 4, as normal, we've got our core syllabus dot points here that we're going to look at today, and in sitcoms this is, here we go, the nature of the popular culture. So this is what we're looking at today. We're going to smash through it today. It is not necessarily something that needs to be, it's quite strange, like we're going to go in a lot more depth over that than we are this. The syllabus dot points that they've provided here are actually a very neat and handy summary of what the 4 distinguishing characteristics are. And with that being said, that's why I have bold and highlighted them here, but we've also expanded on that to help develop your understanding. So these are our core syllabus dot points here today that we're going to cross off. That'll be our learning intention. So we'll start with the first one. So to be considered a popular culture, or for something to be defined as a popular culture, it has to have these 4 characteristics. It has to be associated with commercial products and paraphernalia. It has to develop from a local to global level. It has to achieve widespread consumer access, and it is to be constantly changing and evolving. Otherwise, it's not relevant, and it will fail to be a popular culture. So the first one, associated with commercial products and paraphernalia. So the word paraphernalia that I want to look at here should be in our syllabus glossary. And this is an extra one that I want you to put on. Oh, it's not. How about that? All right. So here's where you make your own one. This is why it's important. So get a study or concept card out for me now. And I want you to put this on it. So you've got paraphernalia on one side. On the flip side, I want you to write the following. Are you ready? You can pause me, rewind me if you need to. Associated products, ideas, or cultural phenomena related to the popular culture. That's what paraphernalia is. Okay, a lot of it's a very commodified object. So when we think about commercial products or paraphernalia, an example might be, for example, this mug right here, which is from the sitcom Friends. So that is a commercial product. We would also consider that paraphernalia because it is an associated product with sitcoms. It doesn't necessarily always have to be a physical product. Like I said, it can be an idea or cultural phenomenon. So if you guys utilize any sitcom catchphrases or language, or repeat any of the jokes they make, you're engaging with that sitcom paraphernalia, those ideas and phenomena that's also associated with it. So with associated and commercial products, this is our first distinguishing characteristic, and the idea of any popular culture is that demand will develop and expand due to media, marketing, and dissemination processes. So what I would like you guys to do as well, get another concept card out, a blank one. You're going to put the first distinguishing characteristic on one side, and then on the other side, I would like you to put the bolded and highlighted definition. So if something's associated with commercial products and paraphernalia, it really needs to develop and expand due to media, marketing, and dissemination processes. So dissemination simply means that it's going through a certain chain. So for example, anyone who does business studies might know that a product is built, by a supplier, and then it goes to a warehouse, and then it goes to a shop front or a retail store, like Typo or something. There's a lot of sitcom paraphernalia there. And then the 4th level, you will then buy that as well as part of that dissemination process. So in order to be a popular culture, at the very first rule is really associated with making money. If it can't make money, it's not going to be a popular culture. It goes against, I guess, the very definition of the word popular. If something's not popular, it's not going to create a lot of money if you're trying to sell it as a product. So, really important here that with sitcoms, the first rule is that it is associated with products and paraphernalia because it needs to be able to sell. If it's not selling, Nothing's funding the actors, nothing is putting it on Netflix, and then therefore you won't be watching it because it's going to flop. So that's really important there. Rule number 1. Associated with commercial products and paraphernalia because it needs to make the dosh. The second distinguishing characteristic is that it will develop from a local to a global level. So in other words, it's developing from a micro level all the way through to a macro level, hitting globalization as is defined here. So it has to be at a global level to be considered a popular culture, not simply just at a national level. So it really needs to be popular across multiple different countries, across a lot of different cultures to be considered a popular culture. So the defining definition point, did I just say defining definition? I think I did. So the defining point here is that it experiences global acceptance with the progression and integration of technologies. So that's the first half of it. Again, put those two on a concept card. That's on one side, this is on the other. But it really needs to experience global acceptance. Okay, now when we say that, I'm not saying every single country or every single culture in the world has to accept it, but you would need it to be, you think of a sitcom like Friends, that's been translated in over, 30 different languages around the world, airs constantly around the world. You would say that really does have global acceptance because it's so big. Yes, not every single country agrees with it, but you would say a large majority would air it. So majority being 51% or higher. So having global acceptance is one of the key points here, but it can't do that without the progression and integration of technology. Today, that's actually especially even more so important. So when a sitcom used to air back before the internet, you might have heard it getting fast-tracked or fast streamed back. So what would happen is it would air, say, in America or the UK typically, and then it would be fast-tracked to Australia. So all the DVD box sets or whatever would be put on a plane or a boat, probably a plane, shipped out to Australia to the latest TV channel, and it might air in Australia 2 or 3 days later. Whereas now with the progression and integration of technology with streaming and the internet, that can be worldwide and instant. So that is really helping things develop to a global level with popular cultures a lot faster. The third law is that it achieves widespread consumer access. So this is very much related to, they're all kind of related to each other, but this is especially related to number 1 in terms of selling products. If you don't have widespread consumer access, you're not going to be able to sell enough of the commercial products associated with it. If you don't have widespread access, say, relating to goal 2 in terms of technology, so not everyone having a television to consume or watch a sitcom, for example, or no one having internet connection if you're in a rural area, might be tricky to watch Netflix out there, you know what I mean? So it really needs to have that widespread consumer access to be considered a popular culture. And of course, the defining point here being that it's assisted by media and communication technologies. So we can see technology is a really important and huge aspect of popular culture to make sure that it's accessible, to make sure that it can go global, and to make sure that it can sell and make money as well. So again, putting that on a concept card. The very last one is number 4, and that is that it is constantly changing and evolving. So the key caveat here is that it influences society whilst it's simultaneously society is influencing the popular culture. We will look at this a lot more in depth later down the syllabus, but to briefly touch on it here, if the product, and the product in our case is sitcoms, isn't constantly changing and evolving, it's not going to make enough money because people can't associate or buy into it. It's not therefore going to achieve widespread consumer access, and therefore it's not going to be at a global level. So it's really important that it's constantly changing and evolving. In sitcoms, what that would look like would be making sure that the content itself is up to date. And an example there is if you watch older sitcoms, you might notice that a lot of the gender roles that they have are very heteronormative and aren't necessarily relatable to a 21st century contemporary society context in how we've moved and progressed with our values and attitudes towards gender and gender roles. So for that reason, especially as sitcoms are portraying everyday life, it's really important that they're constantly changing and evolving as well. That's also from a sales point of view and a technological front. You know, say every sitcom producer refused to put their content online on Netflix or a Stan or a streaming platform, a lot of their sales would dip and they may not even have a market. So you've always got to be constantly changing and evolving. And that's sort of what I meant by how it influences society, while society almost influences it at the same time. So consumers influence the product by showing them what they want, and the product therefore influences consumers because it's also showing them a different story as well that may influence their culture or their thinking or way of being as well. So that's the fourth one. So they are the 4 distinguishing characteristics. What I would like you to do now is I want you to tell me how do sitcoms match the 4 distinguishing characteristics. So sitcoms, again, is short for situational comedy. Sitcoms are TV shows. I just realised I don't think I went into too much depth about what a sitcom is. I mean, more on that in the next lesson. But sitcoms are your classic shows like Friends. You've got Seinfeld here, The Office, The Simpsons, That 70s Show, Big Bang Theory. I'm sure you've seen at least one of these, but a sitcom is typically a group of recurring characters that are trying to solve some kind of crisis within a 20-minute-ish time slot. It's very humorous, tend to be funny, very heavily based on stereotypes, but it has to be, I guess, fitting those kind of key characteristics of that 20-minute section. Typically, it's centered around the workplace, or family, or friends. So they're the 3 kind of core themes that run within sitcoms. So I want you to tell me or think, with someone around you, how do sitcoms match these 4 distinguishing characteristics? And that is all. Also, make sure you refer to your study sheet so you know what you need to do summaries of. Thank you very much. See you in the next one.